Good morning to all of you in the Devil Dog Day Trade community. My name is Michael, and I'll be taking you through our day trading setup process for today, December 30th, 2021. Our last trading day of the year. Special welcome to all of you who have served or are serving in the armed forces, and of course, our most special welcome to my fellow Marines out there. Semper Fi, Jarheads. All right, let's take a quick look at what's happened in the last 24 hours and what's coming up today that might impact our trading process here. Look over to our Forex Factory calendar, and as you can see from Wednesday's perspective, nothing big happened there. The only interesting thing that happened, which didn't really matter whatsoever to the markets, was the goods trade balance here at 8:30. The trade balance went up significantly higher than expected, but overall the markets didn't seem to care about that. So looking down through that Thursday, and nothing big scheduled here. The next really important thing coming up is unemployment claims at 8:30. But again, you can see by the yellow folder there, that's not a major impacting event overall. So let's go on from there to our correlation markets, and we'll start with the DAX. Just remember, we are still coming up from this major weekly demand zone here on the lower right-hand corner of the screen. And then we've been creating some additional demand zones as price has gone up. You can see here on the 60-minute chart that this area right here, while the exact location of it wasn't done, perfectly or drawn out perfectly here. Let me just zoom in on this so you can see that. Overall, the area is holding. You actually got a little bit of another demand zone right below this here, which may end up being a little bit stronger one in case price dips again. But just want to make sure that we take a look at that and understand that there is some continuing strength overall in this market. And we'll take a look at the other ones, of course, just to make sure that we get confirmation of that. So yeah, overall from a DAX perspective, we've got just, again, continuing what looks like additional strength here and continuing moves up, at least for the time being. All right, flipping over to our TradeStation platform now. Let me just get that onto the right screen here. And we'll start with our dollar. And the dollar has, let's see, from yesterday, a couple things that happened that we noted, and then went through some of these areas here on the 60-minute chart. It's really about all that we need to look at today for context, right? We had talked yesterday about this price coming up through this supply zone right here, and I had actually marked this other area here because it looked like there was some additional strength overall with the dollar yesterday, and that turned out not to be the case, right? Price went right down through this area, didn't even hardly flinch as it went down through there, and dropped significantly lower, just a little bit below this previously used zone here as well. But as you can see, we did create some additional weakness here. So we got another supply zone that we actually hit overnight, and you'll see that there was a demand zone on the Euro-USD pair, Forex pair. I'll show you that in just a second. That gave you really good confirmation that that price was going to change there as well. Looking at my live chart on another screen over here, do see that the dollar has turned from this low point right here and is moving back up a bit right now, but not with any certainty there. So I had this area here. Again, we went up through just a touch. I'm going to go ahead and just mark this as we didn't get it quite right, but I'm going to track the overall area, continue to track it, just so we know that this is a very strong supply zone that price hasn't gotten through yet. All right, and then this one can go away. So this is our 60-minute picture here. Again, we've got this supply zone up above, which would tell me that if price comes back up here, we've probably got probably going to use this one again, right? We didn't quite get into it yet, and price moved out quickly from it. So I would say there's a fair amount of imbalance there. And then, as far as why price turned when it got down to that bottom area, we'll look at a 240-minute chart. And as you can see here, just looking left, there's nothing over here that really showed why that changed. So that's going to be one of those ones where there isn't a clear supply and demand picture there. Something else changed that, or something else that we can't see on the charts that we have now. We are starting to show a little bit of a better picture potentially of the longer term movements here, right? Price is starting to come down a bit. On the daily chart, you're really testing this area of support quite often. What that usually means is that once you test it, a few times in a row like that, then you'll finally get the price to drop down through it. Again, though, it's just trying to see what our bias is. It doesn't mean we're going to be taking any trades outside of good, clear supply and demand zones here. So let's just go over quickly and look at that Euro USD area that I just talked about there, right? And so same thing, go to the 60-minute chart, and what you've got is, blow this up here real quick. I'm going to kill that one off. You've got this the same area on here as the opposite zone that we had on the dollar. And as you can see, this one just touched it right here and has now moved up, substantially from there. Put this one in, and we'll mark it. So it has worked, and then of course this has been used, so we don't may want to be cautious about using this one again. But same thing that we just saw on the dollar as well, right? There's a little bit of an area where it looks like price could come up to here and then maybe continue moving down. Again, from here, again, this is going to be a smaller move. I wouldn't expect this to go any significant distance or movement on the chart area, but you could get a quick day trade out of this. All right, since I've got something drawn up here, oh yeah, this is one I took yesterday. And as you can see by this one, right, price just blew through this area like it was standing still. And again, the main reason why I was interested in it, because it was that the opposite correlation zone for the dollar as well. So usually those ones work out well. In this case, it didn't. So we took a loss there. And then you can see the same area that we saw on that 60-minute chart on the 45-minute chart, a little bit more clearer here. Again, a potential for a day trade here, but I wouldn't take it too much farther than that. All right, looking at the VIX. Let's see if we've gotten any more movement here, and we have not. So just a couple of charts here to really, that's all you have to look at. Sometimes you don't have to look at, even 3 or 4 different charts to know exactly what you're going to do for the day. In this case, we still have this used area right here on the 240-minute chart. Price has not gotten through there. And that's what's holding it down overall, and then just this line of support here. There aren't any zones here, but we can't break down through this kind of 16-17 area here at all. I haven't been down there below there in several weeks now. So moving over to our 60-minute chart, just again to get a little bit finer view of this. And again, we're not creating anything net new that's pushing this down. It's the overall slight movement down, but with no real kind of purpose or definition there. So it just makes it harder to see what's going on. It's okay. Remember, this is the last trading day of the year, so be very careful about what trades that you take. I would highly recommend that you just take them as day trades. You don't really want to hold stuff over a long weekend like this going into a new year. You could have some very, very significant gap up and down, specifically in the futures market when they open on Sunday afternoon. So just please keep that in mind today. All right, look at Nikkei. Again, just while we do trade it, we want to take a look and see what this market did overnight. And the big thing that you see is that very, very significant drop down early into the next trading day. being at 6 p.m. Eastern time when the futures markets opened back up again. Significantly bigger dip than the other U.S. market indexes did. So there's continuing, a higher level of continuing weakness here than there is in any of the other index markets, except for maybe RTY. But it's not creating anything that we can use here. There's no additional supply and demand zones here. I'll just go ahead and clean this one up here where we had this zone that price came into, didn't quite hit our target here. So this would end up being a break-even trade. And again, as you can see by just looking through the structures here, there's nothing being created that's of interest and that we're going to use here. So the Nikkei is not giving us a lot of indication either. The more that we see this, the more evidence that is to point to maybe this is a sit on your hands day, not an actual active trading day. Well, of course, we'll look at the smaller time frames and see if something pops up there that could be a good day trade for us. So moving on to our index futures. I'll start with ES. And really the 60-minute chart here is all we need to look at to understand context, because what we can see here for the past 3 days in a row now is just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, right? A lot of white space being created here. No zones that you could, that are good solid ones to use, right? You've got this one right here created during the London Open. So it created at 3 a.m. And, but again, this would be one of those ones, again, quick retracement into here. Take this, depending on what other zones look like, you might still consider this one for an open during the taking a trade during the U.S. market open as well. It's on a 60-minute chart, so you got a little bit more strength there. But again, I would need some other piece of evidence that this is actually going to hold, because it's right in the middle of all this white space. If you do take it, definitely a shorter time trade, right? This is more of a day trade, not one that you're going to hold on to like over the weekend or something like that. All right, so anything else looking good for us on a shorter time frame here for ES? And pull up the 15-minute chart, and let's take a look at that. And as you're looking down and left here, right, there's just nothing at all. Yeah, so we're not gonna try and force a trade into. Well, whatever's there is there. If it's not there. We'll just keep moving on. So looking at NASDAQ, and we'll start with the 15 minutes. I want to show you what we had looked at yesterday. And you'll see this very, very well on RTY, but NASDAQ showed it fairly well as well. We had talked about, these two zones here that we're looking at. These are the quick retracement ones that you usually only get into if you can do it, before the actual U.S. market opens. And this, because it was a picture perfect zone, the second zone was the one that you were more likely to get into here. And so what happened, right? Price came up in here, dropped down only about a 2 or 3 to 1, and then just busted up through it. So again, not that's kind of the clear reason why we typically don't take shorts on index markets unless it's with the overall trend. But then again, just setting additional context here on 240-minute chart, we do have the same. We've got a zone set up in the same area as we do on ES and YM on the 60-minute chart area. So again, just good confirmation if price comes down into this area here, and it does so while the other two hit it as well. Good additional confirmation that you could potentially take this trade here. All right, so let's look on a 60-minute chart to see if there's anything else that we have here. And we don't have that same area that we saw on the ES. And then nothing, up and left either. So again, a whole lot of just back and forth. Not a lot of good areas to take trades in here. Jumping back over to the 15-minute chart just to see what else if anything else shows up here. And the only thing we have is this zone that's literally was just hit 15 minutes ago. And again, created, at the London Open. So, and hit during, before the U.S. markets opened here. So, if you were already in this one, not a bad one to be in, but I wouldn't take this one again at this point. All right, let's look at RTY now. And again, I'll just go ahead and start. A 240-minute chart, there's nothing there whatsoever. 60-minute. See if we have anything similar to the ES here. And we do. All right, you've got this area right here. But again, remember on RTY, these are still counter trend trades moving up, because your overall movement, right, in RTY for the past 2 days has been down, and you've actually started to create an intermediate time frame downtrend here. So if you're going to take this trade, certainly can. You can do counter trend trades on indexes. That's not a bad position to be in. But again, this would be a shorter time frame trade. Don't hold on to this one too long today. All right, so jumping down to a 15-minute chart. Again, this is the just showing you what the kind of the art of the possible is, so to speak, for taking some of these trades here. And remember, RTY is the weaker of the one, right? So of all of the ones we looked at yesterday, with creating these zones in the overnight market, RTY was the one that was going to be the best one to take advantage of for a short here. And so what you saw is this first zone right here, worked for just a quick trade. You got a little bit of almost a 2-to-1 out of this one, but again, the picture perfect zone aspect of this showed to use the upper zone as the one to take, and as you can see, that one worked out very, very well. Right, you would have, that's like a 5 or a 6, 7, 8-to-1 trade there. So clearly would have hit our nominal target of 3-to-1 here, or 4-to-1, sorry. So this one right here, and again, one of the best ways to look at these is you can look at the overall markets themselves to know which one's the strongest, which one is the weakest one, and then the strongest ones, those are the ones where you take the long positions in, right, buy into them. The weaker ones are ones where you would be biased towards shorts. So with RTY being the weaker of all of these markets, this short worked out really well as compared to the NASDAQ, right, which is one of the second strongest market right now. That one didn't work out so well. So just another, kind of one of those things where you can just, you can use that information to help you fine tune, what trades during the day are you going to take if you've got, multiple zone areas to look at. All right, so as far as anything else coming up for us today, no other shorts showed up here, and no other real good demand zones. Nothing that I'm interested in there. So we'll take a look at YM, but in reality, this day is looking to be more and more like a no trade day in the indexes anyways. So YM, just to, again, put this in context here, we did end up setting a new all-time high, or did we not? Just double check here. I know you guys can't see the cursor when it shows up for me, but just reading this exact pressure, got a high of 36,446, 36,463 yesterday. So we did set a new all-time high yesterday, and we did not get any confirmation on a daily chart for negative divergence on RSI. Just going to check the weekly one here. We do have that on our on the ES chart, where we do have negative divergence there on the weekly chart, and we do have it here on the YM as well. So we've got two of the index markets that have that indicator that a potential corrective action is coming. However, we are still seeing overall strength, especially on a daily chart as well. So a lot more strength there between the ES and the YM versus the RTY, which is the weaker of the markets overall. So going down to our 60-minute chart, let's see if we can find another one of those areas like we saw on NQ and ES. And we don't have that same view here. You've got this, which this is hard to call a zone, right? It's very, very unstructured. Not a lot of other good odds enhancers here. So I wouldn't put a whole lot of strength on this one at all. However, the only reason I'm pointing it out is because we do have the same zone on the ES. So, that could be your indication there. If you were, kind of desperate or really, wanted to make a day trade today, price comes down into these areas at the same time, jump down to a 15-minute chart, look for, some of the confirmation that price action is changing, maybe like negative RSI, or negative divergence on RSI, or going below a Bollinger Band, something like that. And you get that, then take a confirmation trade there. But again, these are day trades only. Don't hold them over the weekend. All right, looking at some of our other futures markets here, we'll do oil. And oil, after that big move up 3 days ago, right? Really the only view we have to look at here is our 60-minute chart. That tells the entire story for now. And that is day number 3 of going back and forth over this area right here. Love to see price get out of here. If price can get out of this area here, we will do much better in finding higher probability trades. So jumping down to 15-minute chart to see if we've got any potential day trade setups at this point. And remember, overall, we are in an uptrend, so our bias is to the upside here. And literally, like, I love trading oil, so I always try and find trades here, but you certainly don't push them too hard, and there's nothing here. Nothing here to look at. So again, just because we like it so much, let's jump down to, I'm going to change this one to a 5-minute chart instead of a 2. Again, just to see if there's anything else here that might be worth looking into. And this right here, this is your, borderline bad behavior, right? You're trying to find a trade. I just do so because I'm just very comfortable with oil, really enjoy trading it, and supply and demand zones hold very, very well in crude oil. But again, there's nothing here, and so we're going to stop trying to force that trade and just move on. All right, so European currency, the futures part of this, and the zones are typically slightly different than they are on the Euro USD pair. So we do look at these occasionally, and it's one of the main reasons why Euro USD pair on Forex is one of the only ones that I trade, because I've got so many different ways to validate zones there, right? You got the dollar, and of course Euro currency is almost a direct one-for-one opposite correlation of it, and then you also have the currency market. So you've got 3 different individual markets that you can review, look at to determine whether or not the zones are going to hold. And so, we looked at the 45-minute chart on the Forex area, and we had this spot right here noted, and we did get good movement out of that directly. I don't know that this area is going to hold again, though. So if you haven't taken a quick profit off of there, just be cautious, because I don't know that area is actually going to hold if price comes back up into it again. Looking at some of our higher time frames here, again, we just get this kind of steady move up, back and forth right here. As you can see, right, we've got a definite trend, uptrend here, but nothing really that's created that's going to help us figure anything out for getting back in on it, of course up on the higher time frames. Lower time frames here on a 15-minute chart. Talked about this area yesterday of why price moved here when it did, and as obviously it came out of the second zone very, very strong. Again, I would not expect this one to hold again. But just looking overall at any shorter term trades to get into here today, and yeah, there's nothing of any strength. All right, let's look at gold. So just looking at the daily chart, nothing there that's new. On a 240-minute chart, again, remember we're not looking to take longer term trades right now because of the gap risk over the weekend coming up. But just looking at these charts, and I mean, you can no, it's not. I was gonna say you can almost call this area right here a zone, but yeah, I'm not going to go that far. And nothing here that we can use on a 60-minute. So we had this area drawn yesterday, and it's just kind of a insight into what goes on in trading minds. If you're new to this, or I'll explain my thought process, and if you've done this before, it will resonate with you. So I've had this zone drawn. I'm typically speaking, gold is like the worst commodity that I have tried to trade. So there's not a whole lot of faith and confidence in the zones that I draw there. But drew this one, watched this action yesterday as price came up in here, looked for confirmation, just couldn't find quite enough. Almost did at one point, and literally had the trade execution window open. Almost clicked the confirmation trade coming out of here, and then just didn't in the end. Again, it was just because I just didn't have enough confidence in the overall zone. Turns out, this one worked. So that was a mistake on my end of drawing the zone out, looking, got the confirmation that the price action was changing in here, and still just didn't have the confidence to pull the trigger on that one. So these are things, and I do track these. So just this is another item that you may want to be tracking for yourself. I track every single zone that I draw, whether I use it or not. And then when they work and I don't use it, that's one of the things that I track in the spreadsheet is zone worked, but and the reason I put down, just for simplicity of tracking, is it's called fear, right? Because I was afraid the zone wasn't going to work. So I put that in as fear, and what I can do is, that happens like usually about once a month or maybe once a quarter. I'll go back and review that data and pull that stat up and go, okay, how many times did a zone work that I was afraid to take versus how many times did it not work, but I still didn't take it because of fear. And what I have found is that I am, in a lot of cases, my own worst enemy. And so that's something that you will work on for the rest of your trading life there, right? There's no magic button that's going to happen where that issue is going to go away. But it's good to track. It's good to be able to see that, to kind of black and white data sitting in front of you, to go, okay, yeah, I do know what I'm doing. I should be taking these zones, and that can help you get better overall. But even I've been doing this actively day trading for almost 4 years now, and it's still I would say a significant factor in my overall trade plan execution. So jumping down to a 15-minute chart just to see if we've got any good day trading opportunities here, and let's see. Yeah, nothing here. Nothing that I'm interested in taking. So I will definitely be staying away from gold today. Right, just too many things stacked up against you on on a day like this, especially in a market that I'm just not that comfortable with. All right, let's go look at Japanese yen futures. So this is another one where you can why it may be a good option to, if you're looking to get into trading Forex. This would be like my second pick for what Forex pair to trade, the JPY USD or USDJPY pair, because you've got another market that you can help use to validate zones overall. And just keep in mind, right, we are in a just multi-day, almost a multi-week now downtrend on this one. So bias is definitely short. And I'm just looking through some of our chart areas here. We'll actually start with the daily because it looks like we've got a good additional zone drawn here, and just pull this up. Yeah, so we've got, reset my toolbar real quick. Really good solid daily zone right here. If price comes back up, now keep in mind, right, this movement here was, over obviously several days here, right? This is what, 3-4 weeks of trading here, but you had really good negative divergence on your RSI indicator down below here. So it was just a good indication that you were going to get this corrective action up, and price came up, and now it's moving back down again. But again, you've got another zone sitting right here. So should price come back up again, this is a high probability area where you could get back in on a continuing move down on here. And then just again, trying to set context here on a weekly chart. Do we have anything? And I know you guys can't see this on your screens, but when I click my cursor in here, I actually get a crosshairs, and so that's when if you see the mouse going over like this, I'm following that crosshair line. That's how I go over and look at other formations here, and there's nothing on a weekly chart that's jumping out at me that shows we're going to be changing price direction anytime soon. All right, on the 60-minute chart, anywhere sooner that we can potentially get in on this move, on this continuing move down, and so we actually had a couple of really good areas before here. I know we don't look at these markets every single day, so we might lose out on them occasionally, but you had this zone on top of a zone right here, and both of them worked out very, very well, actually. So just again, additional indication that there is this continuing weakness in the market. And then if you got up early enough today, you saw the same thing happen overnight, where you had this zone area right here, and price is responding to it very well. So yeah, we are continuing to show the weakness overall in the Japanese yen. All right, looking at 15-minute chart, anything that we want to take a look at getting in on a short-term basis today? And all I can say is you've got this area right here, right? So it's a little bit messy. It corresponds with that 60-minute area, and you've got a picture perfect zone type scenario sitting here. So if price comes back up into that 60-minute zone, you've got a potential additional entry point at 0.87 here. But again, this would have to be a quick retracement back up in here. If price goes back down below, down near this 867 area, and then comes back up, I would definitely not take that trade. So a quick retracement trade in there only, and again, probably not something you want to hold over the weekend either. All right, natural gas. So we've got, again, remember, just overall context here, we are still coming up out of this very strong weekly zone that we've got right here, right? Price has come up and bounced back and forth into this nice consolidation area, or white space area here. However, this is one of those ones where you still have the indication that price is going to move up out of here, because it's being created, with this actual demand zone sitting at the bottom of it. But we still cannot break our line here, right? And so we drew this line several days ago now, as this is the area that has to break in order for us to confirm that we're actually in this uptrend. And every time we come up to it, we just can't quite get through it. So that's what we're looking for, right? We're not getting in any longer term long positions here until that line breaks and gives us a confirmation that we are in an uptrend. So before then, these are all short time trades, day trades only, right? Get in, get out, and don't risk losing all of your profits there. And so at 60-minute charts, the same deal here, right? We still haven't broken that line, so this trade here should still work. It's set up on my account to take this one, but it's not one that I'm going to try and hold on to get through this area, because I just don't have any indication that it's going to do so. So this will just be a standard, 4-to-1 trade, and if we make money on it, great. And if it keeps going up from there, then we'll just look for additional ways to get back in on it. So on our get down to a 15-minute time frame. What can we find out here? And yeah, right, we're in the middle of all of this area. So right now you've got a neutral trend on a 15-minute time frame. So you can take shorts or longs here, right? And you've got a good formation set up right here. Again, these would be all they have to be quick retracements in, and then take the profits and move on. Don't hold on to these for any length of time. All right, look at our bond areas. And let's see here. We'll go ahead and start on a daily, because I think that's does help set this particular context. And right here, get your perfect example of just price bouncing back and forth between two different zones. And they're actually zones here, not just areas of resistance or support. These are actual zones that have worked for us and are continuing to work for us. And you don't know which one of these is going to win out. And so this happens, this is why you do shorter time frame or shorter term trades in these areas, because there's no high probability reason for why you would hold on to them. If you happen to hold on to them and it's the right way, we'll call that luck, right? That's called gambling. We don't want to gamble here. We want to actually trade. All right, down to the 60-minute time frame. A little bit better of a picture here, right? We actually do have a downtrend here that we can use for any lower time frame trades. So we get down into a 15-minute and such. Those would be biased towards shorts. And we do have this area that was created yesterday. And to be honest with you, I'm very surprised that I missed that. I was actually actively looking at bonds yesterday midday and completely missed this. But this trade worked out very well. Already would have hit our target. Again, we're not taking longer term trades here. We're doing short-term ones. So this would have been an in and out literally overnight. So very, very good option there if anyone caught that. And then going down, so 15-minute time frame. Again, remember we are biased towards shorts here because we're in an overall downtrend on our 60-minute chart. And we got, you can see this same area, right? This is the area that it came out of for that 60-minute zone, right? Very, very good, solid one. And you've got this one right here, right? Technically speaking, this is a zone, but it's super small. I guess, it literally is one point on the 10-year bond. If you wanted to take something like this, right, we are again downtrend, so this is, the bias is short. I'd put a little bit more room on this one, maybe take it, a half a point above this line right here. Something like that would probably work out better for you. All right, let's look at US, so our 30-year bonds and what we've got here. And again, a little bit more weakness overall in the 30-year than the 10-year. However, we still are coming down to this very strong daily zone right here. Now, a couple of interesting points on this. Number one, we've now created a fair amount of white space right here. Right, and so any zones right below something like this, generally speaking, tend to have a higher probability of working. So that's why this is still of high interest to us. We are overall, actually, I'll jump back out just to make sure that we're absolutely right about this on a weekly chart, because that's where we're going to go for our trend state for a daily chart trade. And we are in a sideways trend. So, you know, it's not even a daily trade out of here is not going to be a counter trend trade. So we've got that going for us, and we also have a zone right below current price on TLT, which is the 20-year bond ETF. Now, again, a good indication that that's going to be a fairly strong area to work there. But again, so now we get down to our lower time frame areas here. On a 60-minute chart, we are in a clear downtrend. We've got good solid zone up here at 160.11 that we could use to take this down to that daily zone area. You've got, this technically speaking, right? This is a supply zone right here. The formation's a little bit odd, right? There isn't a whole lot of additional correlation here that this is going to work, other than, we've got, we are coming outside of the Bollinger Band right now, and we actually do have the couple of zones on TY, our 10-year here. Those zones are a little bit higher than this, so what my expectation of price movement here, this zone won't hold the way it's drawn. It will stop slightly above this, probably in corresponding to that 10-year area, and then come down. So this trade here probably won't work out. As you can see, price looks like it's fairly strong, moving up right now. I'm looking at another one of my live charts on a different screen, and that one is moving up with a fair amount of strength right now over the past 30 minutes. All right, so looking at 15-minute time frame, is there anything else here that might show that 60-minute area is going to work better? And there really isn't, right? Once you break past this point here, you've got this super, super long candle, a base candle coming out of this area here. Again, another zone here. So what I have seen happen, in particular with treasuries, right, is this area right up above here is actually almost a zone, even though it doesn't meet any of our criteria. So instead of taking this whole entire thing for one area or one large amount of risk, you might want to break it up into two. And if this one fails, but like slightly above it is where the zone is on the 10-year, the TY, on it. That's 15-minute chart. That's why this area right here might actually end up working, whereas the actual zone below it won't. So we'll track that, and we'll see what happens there. But so again, something else that happened yesterday or the day before yesterday that we did miss again, because we can't cover all of these markets every single day. But you did have this, really good-looking area here. And again, one of these ones where you had a zone created during the U.S. market open that then hit overnight when you had a little bit lower levels of trading, which adds a little bit more strength to any zone created during the U.S. market open. And as you can see, that one, worked out very, very well. All right, let me just mark this one as used so we don't get it confused later on. Okay, let's see. Let's go ahead and look at some cryptocurrencies now. We had obviously a big move over the past couple of days, big move down, and we've got some things that are looking like they might be starting to turn around now. So flipping back over to TradingView, and we'll pull up our watch list for cryptocurrencies and start it with Bitcoin. And so this was a discussion we had yesterday, right, where and I'll go through again the whole thing because it's working out almost exactly as we had talked about. And so we had this picture perfect zone area here on a daily chart, and because of the formation of the candles, it was more likely that the lower zone was going to work. So that's how you would have picked, okay, so which one of these is the most likely one to work? The lower zone was it, and that's what happened, right? It came down into the lower zone itself. And then when we looked at our 240-minute chart, what we found inside of that lower daily zone was another picture perfect zone. And this is like literally one of the best indicators that you can get of an area going to work, is if you have a lower time frame zone embedded in a higher time frame zone, and in particular if it's this picture perfect zone view of it. That's, I mean, you know, you've got a picture perfect zone inside of another picture perfect zone. And so again, this formation, the second leg out candle from the second zone created, was much longer than the first one. So you knew that the better indication that price was going to come all the way down into the lower one. And so we'll just delete this one right here, and I'm going to put the target from this one up. Template, we'll use our target context, right? So this is price, you would expect price to come up to 48,697, and we are, you know, more than halfway there already, starting to show, you know, a little bit of pullback here. But again, when you have areas of multiple zones at different time frames, this is one of the best ways that you can use to find them and find, okay, which one should I use here. And this is just a really good example of that actually, you know, playing out right in front of us. So then from there, right, we you know, this appears as though it's working. Is it going to stay working? And so that's when you go into your lower time frames to see if there's any opposing zones or supporting zones being created that would demonstrate, you know, whether this continued strength is going to stay in, or we're going to go back to the overall weakness of the past couple of days. And what you can see here is there's nothing that was created on a 60-minute chart that's pushing us down. But there's also nothing there's nothing really holding it up either. So go to the 15-minute chart, and here again, same thing, looking up and left, nothing here that's pushing it down. But when I look down and left, I can see some really good areas of additional strength in this overall move, where I've got another picture perfect zone right here being created that shows that I've got some additional strength overall. So that these pullbacks here would pull back right into these areas, and then we'll continue on up from here. And again, this formation here shows that you're probably going to go lower overall into the zone. So don't take this upper entry point here, move your entry point lower down in, if not to the full lower zone, you know, maybe, you know, just bottom of the first one, or even in the middle of them. All right, take a look at Ethereum now, and we didn't quite get down to our daily zone again here because of the way the price came into this one and moved up out of it. I would say it's safe to take this one again, right? This, you know, and again, remember, this is a long in a currency or cryptocurrency that's designed to move up. So you're moving with the overall security bias when you take long positions here. But again, it hasn't created anything net new that we're interested in here in taking. So just this is a case of, you know, wait for the price to get back down in here before you take another trade coming up. Looking at DOT, we did get movement almost down to our the zone that we had marked on a 240-minute chart. Right, we came very, very close to it. Didn't quite get down in there. As long as price doesn't change trend here, I would still consider this an active trade. Okay, let me zoom out of that one. Dogecoin. Okay, I'm not sure why the chart view changed on this one quite a bit. I'm not sure why. Anyway, so looking at this, looking at daily zone first. Nothing on a daily chart, nothing on a 240-minute that we're interested in either, and 60. Yeah, nothing here that's I think strong enough where we're interested in taking a look at it. So on a AVAX, we did come down into our previously used daily zone, Right? We did get this quick retracement in here. That usually means it's okay, especially on like a daily or higher chart. You can usually take these ones again if you've already just used it for the quick retracement. You'll see price came back down here, moving back up again. Again, you just have the general uncertainty here because you're moving back and forth in a very short, period of time between two very strong zones, opposing zones here. So it just adds a little bit of uncertainty overall to what's going on here. Let me zoom out of that. And take a look at one thing on a different monitor here real quick. Let me pull up Shiba coin. And we just came down right through this 240-minute area here, right? But the overall area seems like it might be holding. Let me close that out now. So this is again one of those things that I'll mark it, and we'll track this until price comes down through it, in which case I'll mark it as just a failed zone. If price continues up from here, though, I would mark this as I just had the stop in the wrong place, which I'm finding more and more with as we look at cryptocurrencies, that the stops seem to the areas that these prices respond to are a little bit or tend to be a little bit bigger than some of the ones that we've seen in the other securities that we trade. But again, those are feelings right now, right? And we want to make sure that we base our rules on data and logic, and so that's why we track this. And usually I'll track about between 100 and 150 zones on a particular symbol or security before we start looking at what the actual rules are overall for it. So nothing else really here to look at. We'll look at Matic now. Right, you see the same type of a scenario happening here on the 240-minute chart, right, where price came into this area and moved out, very, very well from there. But again, the stop would have had to have been just a little bit lower than that. So again, one of those things where we just will continue to track that and see if there happens enough where we need to change our trading rules for it. Nothing else there. Let's look at CRO. We've got this daily zone right here set up that we have almost hit. Just zoom in on this real quick for you, right? So very, very nice zone here. As you can see, I've actually drawn the stop fairly low on this one compared to where the base candle is at. We'll see if, I think we'll probably get another, hopefully we get another quick push down in here to pick this trade up, and then we'll see a bigger move up and out of there. All right, that's wrapped Bitcoin. So we had this, so same thing that happened for Bitcoin, right? Which again, wrapped Bitcoin and then the Bitcoin Cash are going to respond very, very similarly to the overall Bitcoin area. And so here we had this 240-minute zone, 240-minute chart, picture perfect zone. And price came right down into this lower one as it expected to, and is now coming back up. And again, so this target for this one would be, down here right at 4,800 on the dot, and we're almost there now. All right, let's look at UNI, and don't really have any good setups there for us. Algo. So you'll see this again, just another indication of, price movement, right? We had this zone sitting right here that we thought was going to work. Price came down a little bit below it, and then it just exploded up out of there. So another one, when I mark this one as being tracked, it'll be a stop set too close. Link. We've still got this daily zone right below. Actually, sorry, this one has been used, right? It does still seem to be holding price up at the moment, and but again, if price comes down in here, you can see because it was used, the price point came almost the entire way through there. I wouldn't reuse this zone again here. All right, nothing else of interest here. So Bitcoin Cash. We don't have any of the same zones that we drew on the other ones, right? This is different enough where you're not really seeing the same exact zone structure, and nothing else really being created that's worth tracking at this point. We'll look at XLM, and pull up the 240-minute chart because this is a potentially interesting area. Right, you look down into here, and I mean you've got this picture perfect zone here. You know, you get the drop base rally. However, this base candle here exceeds the length of the leg candle out. So these would be ones where, yeah, technically it's a zone, but that formation indicates it's not really clean enough. So I'll mark these as just kind of areas we'll watch, right? Not, wouldn't automatically take anything here, and that's the reason why, right? The structure initially catches your eye, but it's not really clean. So let me zoom out of this one, and SOL. We'll just get down to the rest of this list, and then we will be done. So SOL's got nothing on a daily 240-minute time frame. We had a bunch of stuff happen here on the 60-minute though. So just most of the stuff I've got to clean up. Right, we did have this zone here now that has worked 1, 2, 3 times, oddly enough, right? So again, this is good data to have. Right. Well, it's not another thing that I track when we're looking at, you know, the initial tracking stats for a new security. You look and count how many times zones worked, because then you can definitely build up good solid rules based on that. All right, LCX. We had finally came in and hit our 240-minute zone here. Again, this is a pretty big one. And we talked about this, right? The lower one is probably the one that's a higher probability of hitting. So we'll keep watching this one and seeing if you're in this one. I would say, you know, probably take you know, some off when you get to a 1-to-1, just to make sure you don't lose out on everything here. But the second zone is the more likely one to work. And then on a 60-minute chart here, so this is the same situation, right? You've got the same view on a 60-minute as you do on a 240, and again, the rules here state with this zone, right, because your leg out candle of the second zone is longer than the leg out of the first zone, that your entry point's typically going to be lower overall in this deal. So I typically take these as 2 different zones. Some people I know don't. They take them as one zone. They just move their entry point lower. And so you can see here, right, whereas if you just lowered your entry point to like halfway through the entire zone here, you would still be in this trade, but you would already be up, you know, at least a 1-to-1, maybe a 1.5-to-1 already. So that's something, again, track those out. The way that I do that on my tracking sheets is to first of all identify the type of zone it is. It's a picture perfect zone, and then, you know, did it when I basically just check the box of did it follow the rules or not. In other words, did the second zone hit or did the first zone hit? And then the third thing that you track on that is a 50% entry point into the overall zone. So if you drew this as one single zone instead of 2 separate ones, did price come halfway through that zone and would have still triggered your trade? Again, you track about 100 of those, and you'll get a really, really solid data point that says, okay, here's how I should trade these particular zones. And just, you know, this isn't limited to just picture perfect zones, right? This is every single zone that you see. First of all, when you're tracking it, always make sure that you're documenting the type it is, because that will help you build your rules for what types work and which ones don't. And then the other thing that I have found very, very useful is to identify how far price goes into the zone. So as an example right here, right? So price came, 95 or 90% of the way into the zone, I usually just track it at 2 different points. I do a 20% in and then a 50% in. And what I have found is that securities like gold and oil almost always go further into a zone than just this initial entry point that's drawn, right? So when you have this zone right here's the first line that you see here. This is your proximal line, so the one closest to prices that's coming in here. Your distal line is the one furthest away. So securities like gold and oil will always come in a little bit further. So what you can do then is just put your buy line, right here. That's probably, let me change this color so you can see this a little bit better, right? So your buy line is going to be further in, and that just reduces your overall risk because now your entry point and your stop point are closer together, so your overall risk is lowered. Yeah, and compare that with most of the index markets for demand zones on an index market, especially in an uptrend. So think about this, right? Index markets are built to move up. And so you've got a demand zone where price is coming down into, and price is going to move up from there. So you're going to go long. You're going to buy the security there. I have found that typically speaking, they hit the very top of those zones and immediately change direction. So if you follow that same rule of like a 50% entry point into a zone for every security, you would do well on things like gold and oil, and then you would do horribly on index markets. So that's why it's important to track the types of zones and the entry points by what security that you're tracking as well is. So you can, again, develop those very specific rules that, believe it or not, will change depending on the security that you're actively trading. I know it's a little weird, right? We think of this as, this is supposed to be just data, just numbers, but each of them does react a little bit differently than the other ones, and it can be measured and tracked, and then you can build a good solid rule set from that. So that's where we'll end today. I appreciate the participation here. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you get notifications as we release new content and new updates. If this session was helpful, please hit the like button. Again, remember, no trading show tomorrow. Have a happy and safe trading day today. Have a wonderful New Year's Eve celebration. A lot of football games this weekend, and we will see you all again on Monday at 8:15 Eastern.